This is Grant Troop, Mid-Atlantic correspondent for Ag Reports Network. This is our report for June 25th, and we're here in Cochranville, Chester County, Pennsylvania, looking at some corn that's really struggled this spring. We have a Chester soil mixed with Glenelg and Glenville as you get into these wetter pockets, and those soils, the Glenville in particular is a moderately well to poorly drained soil, and it's got pockets you can see in this field that are quite yellow and short. This corn was planted the last week of April, so we're pretty far along in the season to have corn this small, this much time in the ground. But the corn has really struggled. Been rain after rain after rain, and these poorly drained soils. The corn has been in saturated conditions in the underground, and has not had a chance to really get going and grow. We are looking at a dry and warm week this week, and this corn was just recently side dressed with nitrogen. I believe 60 pounds of nitrogen with 30% Super N went on, with Agritane as a nitrogen inhibitor, volatilization inhibitor. So we're hoping to jumpstart this corn and salvage a crop. There are a lot of acres like this in the low-lying areas of Pennsylvania and the Delmarva. The corn's been in a wet foot environment, and it's not good. Those roots need a certain amount of oxygen in that pore space, and they have not been receiving that this year. And if the rains continue, you're going to look at a very, very low yield potential in this field, and I would say the yield potential has already been dropped by a third to a half in this field from the 2 months of wet weather it's been in so far. And so we're looking for some better weather to get this thing going. The nitrogen's there. This ground had a treatment of manure, so if we get the weather, we should get some corn yet, but things look pretty poor for 2 months into the season.
Dale Hoyt, reporting with Grant Troop on some of the current conditions in Pennsylvania. And essentially what we're looking at today is wheat, and our wheat crop is really being hit hard by a disease that infects in May during flowering called scab, which is Fusarium. And Fusarium gets in grain crops because of a rotation with corn or other cereal grains. And we had wet conditions, 10 inches of rain in May, right during flowering time. So it was great time for this infection to occur. And growers that did treat with a fungicide that's active on scab, such as Carumba, Procerio, Proline, they had good control. We still had some scab, but I'd say it reduced it by about 60%. In this field, it's not uncommon to find about 40% of the heads infected with the scab. It causes a pink fruiting body, and if we go ahead and strip the grain off, the kernels will be shriveled. And in worst case scenario, there won't even be grain in the head itself, but the shriveled kernels will be apparent. And at this point, the current recommendation is to go ahead and assess fields. And today we're in a wheat field that the edge of the field has more incidence, which we find through our research that there's higher levels of DON, which is a toxin that's formed by the Fusarium, and it's common to have it higher incidences on the edge of the field, and also low-lying areas where water might have ponded, those high humidity areas, and you get more infection because of that. So we're currently recommending that growers do an assessment on their wheat, look at the amount of heads that are affected, and again you'll have that white head, that's a characteristic, and it'll have that pink fruiting bodies that grow from near the seed grain itself. Once you do an assessment, if it's severely affected, you need to increase your fan speed on the combine to blow those chaffy kernels out. After harvest, it's not a bad idea. It costs about $1 a bushel to get a commercial cleaner in he can blow more of those chaffy seeds out, and then to get send a sample, grind a sample, send it off to a lab on the National USA Scab website. There's a listing of places to send those samples in and get it tested. In our area, a lot of the mills are using a quick test, which is a stick that we can grind the head, grind the seeds, put it in a reagent, and test it, and it'll either be positive or negative for vomitoxin, and then we can determine, put that in a bin aside, and the good grain or the negative testing grain would go into a separate bin, and then later on we can blend those down depending on what feed grade it would go to. But for human consumption, there's very little. I think it's 1 part per million. And so this year is going to be a devastating yield effect. We've seen as high as, in the past, we've seen as high as 70% yield reduction. So the key learning factors this year: plant-resistant varieties, don't rotate out of corn or other small grains, and consider the use of a fungicide late in the season based on the National Scab reporting tool that's available, and that would manage it. So it's not specific to no-till. It can be through any tillage system. This grower did apply a fungicide, and we can see a definite response between where he skipped with the sprayer, where he has septoria that has come all the way to the top where he did not spray, and we do have some infection now where he did treat. So again, these are things that can be done to
barley harvest time in southeast Pennsylvania in the Mid-Atlantic region. The weather has not been very cooperative to this point. It's been very difficult to get barley harvested. The straw quality is down. Test weights on the grain has been low, running somewhere to 40 to 43 pounds per bushel. And the straw will not have that bright yellow color that barley straw normally does. We can see here an operator in the field picking up some straw with a baler, and John Deere tractor, baler, and a kicker wagon as he's getting started. And this man is anxious to get the straw off. He'll be looking to zip in some soybeans into this barley ground right quick after harvest. Try to get a bean crop, double crop bean crop. So actively at it. A lot of activity this week as farmers are trying to catch up with some work that's behind schedule. Barley's been ready now for probably about a week, but the weather has not cooperated with harvest, and this being a sunny day, we'll make it some pictures of the barley straw harvest. You can pick up our equipment here, baler in the field, picking her up. And again, as we were saying before, the barley straw is considerably further behind because of moisture conditions, and trying to get caught up on the harvest, get the straw off the field, get double crop soybeans in, and get that second crop going while we still have some good growing.